What is up, and I welcome each and every one of you back to a brand new Civ 6 or Civilization 6 guide. Today we are going to be doing another Civ 6 leader review, this time talking about Peter of Russia, probably the best Civ in the entire game, and that is no exaggeration at all. Russia has one of the best abilities in the entire game, the best district maybe, and aside from their unique unit, each of their abilities is absolutely insane. We'll be talking about their strengths, their weaknesses, starting locations, ideal strategies, some secret strategies, and then finally ranking for each victory type. There are chapters down below, and I do also have a playlist filled with these Civ 6 leader reviews, so go ahead and check them out. The ones we've done so far are Germany, Japan, and Babylon. But yeah, it's pretty much the intro. Without further ado, let's get started with their abilities. Now, Russia's abilities are pretty damn insane. Let's start with Grand Embassy. The Grand Embassy, you receive science and culture from trade routes to civs that are more advanced than Russia. You get one science or culture per 3 technologies or civics respectfully that they are ahead of you. So on the higher difficulties especially, Russia can be super effective, as a lot of the times civs are going to be like 12, 15 techs ahead of you a lot of the times, and that is a large amount of science and culture you can get, meaning you don't really have to focus so much on the early game science or culture generation, and you can focus more on what Russia does best, being insane faith generation and expanding with as many cities as possible. Speaking of expanding, Russia's unique ability is Mother Russia. Extra territory upon founding cities. You get extra territory upon founding cities. It's about 5 extra tiles. You get 1 faith and 1 production from the tundra, and units do not receive damage from blizzards. However, civs that are at war with you receive double the damage from blizzards in Russian territory. Now, the second part of that ability isn't too good. It's super situational, but before that, extra territory, it'll be like the territory where the city would automatically get the culture anyway. So it's going to be the 5 best tiles outside of your starting radius, and 1 faith and 1 production from tundra tiles makes them absolutely amazing. Holy crap. That is probably an insane ability, meaning you're one of the only civs who can really do anything in the tundra aside from potentially Canada. But even Canada, you do have to wait a little while until you can start building farms on tundras and making them effective. Russia immediately gets just a super large bonus early on. The best place to settle is between tundra and, for example, grassland tiles, so you have enough food to grow your cities, but also you will have a lot of tundra tiles to work on production and faith. Also, camps and deer as Russia is super good, as they will give you extra food, and they can also be found in the tundra. So Mother Russia is a great ability, but that is not their best one. Let's talk about the Cossack real quick. It's an industrial era unit replacing the cavalry. Stronger than the cavalry, gains 5 strength when fighting in or adjacent to its home territory, and can move after attacking. Now, this used to be a menace when siege engines and battering rams used to work on cavalry units. Now, it's not as strong ever since cavalry units really just got that nerf a long time back. It's still a solid unit, but it isn't anything near towards being the best, for example. It can move after attacking, which is nice, especially if you don't have any ranged units to finish off a low health unit, and you don't want to be just surrounded and just like the multiple memes, or you're just, you know what, never mind. Let's go talk about the Lavra right now. The Lavra is a unique religious district, replaces the holy site, and is super cheap to build. Your city borders grow by 1 tile each time a great person is expended. The Lavra provides 1 great writer point per turn with a shrine, 1 great artist point with the temple, and 1 great musician with a warship building. Now, this actually used to be 1 writer, musician, and artist just by building the Lavra, which was so goddamn broken. You would literally win sub 200 culture victories with Russia easily. Now, this is a little bit harder, I guess, but not quite as much, because by the time you have a fully decked out Lavra, a lot of the times the enemy civs won't have, even theater squares at that point. So really, if you go Lavra into theater squares, you will be making the most great people points, great writers, artists, musicians, by far, and it isn't even close. Russia is the best culture civ in the entire game, probably, by far. Not to mention, they're also probably the best religious game in the civ, by far. I know I said those 2 backwards, but allow it. But aside from that, that's pretty much all their abilities. Pretty strong, probably the strongest in the game. Let's go ahead and talk about their strengths, and that is going to be a long, long list. Now, aside from their obvious strengths, being destroying France and Germany when they invade their territory, the real Russian strengths in this game are it's just a long list. Let me just read it down. The first strength is insane faith generation. Due to all the faith and your people praying to tundra tiles or whatever, you are going to be getting a large amount of faith early on. If you want to, you could probably get the first pantheon in the game, and if you don't want to, you'll definitely still get a super early pantheon. The extra production means you are also going to have a large amount of extra production in the early game, allowing you to build units, districts, and buildings a lot faster than normal. The other thing is great start potential with the extra tiles, with the fact that you're going to be on the edge of the map, with the fact that you're the only civ that's going to be settling near tundra. Russia almost always has an amazing start, especially with enough tundra. With enough tundra, Russia might be the best civ just ever in the history of civilization, because you're the only one settling near tundra. If anyone declares war on you, you're going to have an extra combat bonus with the blizzards and all of that, and not to mention the extra production and faith means you can just build units super fast while also getting a religion and pantheon without really focusing too much on it. But yeah, they have one of the best starts in the entire game. Their science and culture potential is amazing. Not only do they have the Grand Embassy, they also have the ability to go for the World Church or cross-culture dialogue, and with Void Singers, it's essentially the easiest game you will ever play on Russia. Let's go ahead and talk about the great writer, artist, and musician generation, because it is the best in the entire game. There is nobody who comes close to Russia when it comes to producing these great people. Even after the nerf, getting a great musician point with a warship building and a great artist with a temple, that's still so much earlier than everybody else, including the Lavra making great writer points with a shrine. You will get so many great people, you won't know where to put them. Genuinely, you will have an overpopulation issue because all your great people are surrounding your tiles, and you gotta be like micromanaging every turn, like, okay, this guy's gonna come here, you're gonna go there, we're not prepared for you yet. So it's just absolutely insane, and it does get annoying at times, but with enough slots and enough cities, which you should be able to get because you're the only civ that's able to settle on tundra, you should easily be able to get insane amounts of tourism by even about turn 100. It is that crazy. The other abilities they have, I said this is going to be a long list. The other strengths they have, your ability to secure an early religion. The Lavra is 50% cheaper than a regular holy site district. You will be able to build the fastest holy site in the entire game, especially considering your extra production from Mother Russia. Not only that, but you will then be able to get the earliest religion because it's going to be produced faster, right? And then when it's produced faster, you're getting more great people points, and you'll be able to go holy site prayers. So getting the first religion as Russia is, it doesn't matter what difficulty you're on, you're going to get the first religion as long as you go astrology first, which is great. And then finally, the final strength out of this long list is there's no competition for cities in the early game. You don't have to rush. You don't have to do anything crazy. You can wait till political philosophy and then get your government plaza and whatnot, because no one's going to be settling the tundra, right? In fact, the first few cities you do settle should be near the grassland or plains or whatever, not near the tundra, because you're going to settle the tundra anyways, so you might as well gobble up the other spots that the civilizations want, and then you can just get the tundra afterwards when you are finished. But there is still one last strength. I did lie. Their ability to use Dance of the Aurora. Dance of the Aurora gives holy sites one faith adjacency for each adjacent tundra tile. So you go ahead, plop down a holy site in places of tundra, you will be getting at least 6 and potentially up to 12 to 15 faith from just one holy site, depending on how many mountains and if you have a natural wonder and whatnot. But you add that in with work ethic, that means it's going to be automatically 6 to 15 production just by having a holy site, not to mention your original production from Mother Russia. I know I make jokes about them being the Soviet Union and whatnot, but speaking about all this production, you would think they were actually the Soviet Union. They make so much production, and I guess they just have people working for whatnot for free, no food, I guess. But aside from that, their production is just insane, and that should be the end of the strengths. I probably missed one. There's so many. But without further ado, let's move on to their best starting locations. Now, their best starting locations is pretty obvious. It's tundra, but it's not going to be quite as obvious. You want a large amount of tundra in a cold map, and you want to start near the border between the tundra and regular tiles. Now, the reason you do want to do this is because you want to get some food, because Russia doesn't really have a bonus towards food in the tundra, meaning they'll struggle to grow their cities. But I mean, aside from that, you do then want to go for like an infinite settler spam strategy while going for the lava and whatnot. So being in a super cold map with the tundra means you're going to have more cities, and even if Canada's in the game, they're not going to start near you. They'll probably start on the opposite end of the poles. That's just usually what I find. Even so, I really haven't met Canada in any of my Russia games, so maybe it's hard-coded in to like not put in Canada when Russia's in the game. But I mean, aside from that, it just is what it is at that point. If you do get Canada right beside you, just declare war on them. But yeah, Peter, really, on a tundra, in a cold map, you really just, it's just the best starting location by far. It isn't even close. Let's move on to the ideal strategy. Now, the ideal strategy for Russia is a pretty simple one. You're going to want to work on your faith tiles early on and get the Dance of the Aurora Pantheon. Shouldn't be too hard, as unless someone like Canada is in the game or someone starts in the tundra, you should be able to get this every time, even if you're the last Pantheon. But just try to get it a quick, just in case something does happen. After that, you're going to want to get your lavras by beelining astrology, and at the same time, you're going to want to get temples and your worship building as fast as possible. Build the lavra, do holy site prayers until you're able to get your religion, and then once you do get your religion, the abilities you're going to want are number 1, work ethic, so Dance of the Aurora turns into production. Number 2, the other options you could get are probably, a worship building, world church, cross-culture dialogue, the one that makes the apostles and missionaries 30% cheaper, crusade if you want to go for a domination type. It's just so versatile that it really depends on what you want to do in the game and what your starting position is, but this is essentially what you want to do early on to get a religion. After that, you want to beeline temples and get your worship building along with the temples to start getting, the great artists and musicians as well. Finally, you're going to want to get great works and continue settling cities and try to get as many theater squares and holy sites and great slots as possible. Aside from that, you could go for a science victory, but I feel like religion or culture is by far Russia's best strategy. Religion if you want to end the game early on. Culture if you want to end the game not as early on, but still earlier on than most. But I mean, aside from that, Russia's just so damn strong. You could really do anything. But that's their ideal strategy. That is what you want to do. Let's go ahead and talk about some secret strategies that are unknown and will probably be in a Civ Lifer video in the future. We have 3 secret strategies for Russia. The first one being World Church Cross-Culture Dialogue strat. Now, looking at the Grand Embassy, you're going to be getting a lot of bonuses when trading with other civs, get some alliances like Research or Cultural Alliance as well, and then go for World Church or Cross-Culture Dialogue instead of the Worship Building, and watch as you amass insane amounts of science and culture, because you are going to be converting everyone to your religion, obviously, and the more you do that, the more yields you could get. This isn't the best strategy that I have here, but it is still a pretty basic one, just starting off a little bit light, an appetizer if you will. After that, we got the Void Singers, because they're super OP with Russia. You get the Void Singers, 20% of Russia's insane faith generation is going to turn into culture, science, and gold. Enough said. Enough said. You're just breaking the game at that point. You might as well be called the Spiff and Brit and drink some tea, because the game does not stand a chance against you after that. And then finally, this is a super secret strategy, I guess. Apocalypse mode for Russia. Now, the reason this works is twofold. Number 1, you're not getting forest fires in the tundra. Number 2, you're not getting floods in the tundra. Number 3, you're probably not going to get meteors in the tundra, but what you are going to get is blizzards. And one of the biggest problems is Russia is the fact that you can't really work tundra tiles and there's no food there. Well, aside from the fact that you'll have to repair some districts, if I'm reading their abilities correctly, just get Apocalypse mode. Blizzards are going to happen. They'll increase yields on your tiles, give you more food, production, faith, science, gold, culture, all that good stuff. And by the time the late game comes around, you'll be rubbing your eyes thinking, wait, I didn't know I picked the Leyline Secret Society, because that's how many of each yield you are going to be getting. You'll probably assume that there are vampire castles everywhere, because Apocalypse mode and blizzards and Russia is just the cream on. It's just the... It's just a pièce de résistance or something in French. I don't know. I only took French class for like 8 years. But aside from that, Apocalypse Mode does make Russia insane, amazing, great, even more than it already is. And that's essentially all I have to say for Secret Strategies. Let's go ahead and talk about the rankings for each victory type. And now it's the moment you've all been waiting for, the entire reason you probably clicked on this video. We're going to be talking about rankings for each victory type. Now, we do have about 5 victory types in an overall ranking. Now, the way I'm ranking these is between S, A, B, C, D, and F tier. F tier is more so the Congo not being able to win a victory at all, like Congo not able to win a religious victory. D is you're really just crippled in that regard. C is you don't have any advantages. B is minor advantages. A is really good. S is the best in the game, or one of the best in the game. But yeah, now that we have that out of the way, let's go ahead and start with domination. We're going to give them a C ranking. Now, the reason they get C is because they really don't have an advantage towards domination. They could go something like Crusade, I understand that, but really you would be giving up either work ethic or a warship building, meaning you're not making use of Russia's abilities. If you want to go Crusade, just go Byzantium or something, right? But I mean, aside from that, the Cossack is probably their best domination unit, and it just gets combat strength and fighting in its home territory or next to its home territory. So as an offensive unit, it really is not the best. So we're going to put them towards the C tier because they really don't have too many advantages. No advantages, actually. And next up, we have science. They're going to get the A ranking for science, mainly because of the Grand Embassy allowing them to get 1 science for every 3 techs they are behind a civilization. Add that in with the Research Alliance, and you will be catching up in science so damn fast, not to mention the Voidsinger Secret Society, translating all that faith into science, makes Russia a very strong science civ. Not only that, but all their production they're going to be getting from work ethic and from Mother Russia's ability means that they're going to be able to super fastly build spaceship parts in the late game, making them absolutely great when it comes to anything related to science. So Russia is going to get the A ranking for that. Great production, great science generation. I didn't want to put them S tier because they're not exactly the best science civ. They're not Germany or Korea or anything like that, but they are still right up there, and you could definitely win a science victory with Russia. And after that, let's talk about culture and religion at the same time because they're both fairly similar. They're both getting the S ranking for that. The reason is the Laurier gives you so much faith and it gives you so many great people points that it just works towards both a religion and science victory. You're going to be making so much faith from Mother Russia, and the Grand Embassy also works with culture and civics. Not to mention you still have world churches that evangelize belief, and all that production will give you a great advantage when building wonders. So add that all in together, and when it comes to faith and culture victories, they're the best in each victory type. They're both getting the S tier. They're getting S plus tier, actually. But let's move on to diplomatic. It's diplomatic victory time, baby. Now for this, they are going to be getting a B ranking. It's between B and C. Like in domination, they really don't have an advantage. And like domination, they could get a belief to offset that advantage, the pagoda. Now, the reason domination C and diplomatic is B is because in domination, you would have to give up either work ethic or your warship building in order to get crusade. But with a diplomatic victory, the only thing that gives you diplo favor is the pagoda, which is a warship building, which makes it A-okay in my book. So they do get a B in diplomatic. They can get the warship building, not sacrifice any great musician points early on, and still get a large amount of diplo favor generation. Not to mention, with all the faith they have, if Valletta's in the game, they'll be able to build walls and go for monarchy, and even if they aren't, their production should be more than enough. So when it comes to a diplomatic victory, they are going to get a B ranking. I think that's exactly what I did in my no district challenge. I just had Valletta in the game and started faith buying as many walls as I could, got monarchy, and started making like 80 diplo favor per turn. It was pretty damn insane. But yeah, Russia is a really, really strong civilization with diplo victories, and that's definitely one of their more underrated sides. Not A tier, but still comfortable down there in the B tier. And now it has come to the overall ranking and the outro, essentially, Before we get started, I just want you guys to know that while Napoleon did invade Russia, he was able to do so because he did like a Civ Lifer video, but unlike Tsar Alexander, he forgot to subscribe, allowing Tsar Alexander to push them out of Russia and eventually end Napoleon's reign and send him to like some sort of island in the middle of nowhere. God damn, that was brutal. But yeah, in all honesty, like, subscribe if you have enjoyed this video. But let's move on to the overall ranking. We're going to give them the S+ ranking. I've been godding at them all the time. Russia absolutely has no weaknesses aside from going to war with either Poland or, for example, getting communism and breaking apart later on in the game. But aside from that, they really just have no disadvantages or anything. And they, in all honesty, they just are the best faith civ, the best culture civ, one of the best science civs, and a good diplomatic civ. They're an amazing civ. They really are just good at so many victory types. And the fact that their starting position usually means they're safe from any sort of attacks or counterattacks or anything like that just means they're going to be able to focus on infrastructure a lot more. And you add that in with Void Singers, and you're just unstoppable at that point. One of the best civs in the game, and one of my favorite civs in general. Thank you all so much for watching. If you have enjoyed, as always, like, subscribe. I already said that. But, yeah, without further ado, I will see you all in the next video, and let me know down below who you want me to talk about next, what comes after Russia, and, yeah, we'll do that video next week. See ya. Huge shout out to my members, Cash Christian, Ben Ownby, John Blair, Jackson Perez, Polaris Gaming, Emporium, Adam Mester, Jeff Utzler, Kim Cosmos. A really special shout out to my Oh My God subscribers, Robert and Overflow of Amenities.